a little bit about what business coaching is about, and also, I guess more importantly, about the steps, or maybe even the first steps of some of you out there towards building a better business, one that generates more profit, gives you more time and freedom to enjoy it. So what I'd like to do is I'll just introduce we've got Sam, who is moderating in the background. She'll be able to let me know if there's any questions or any comments that are coming in. And one of the things that I'll do is I won't answer them through the session today, but what we will do is we should have a little bit of time at the end to be able to answer any questions that are arising from today's session. And hopefully there'll be a few of them as we go through. So first of all, can I just start by finding out how many business owners are here? So again, just drop into the chat if you're a business owner and the nature of your business. And I think it's always quite cool to find out where you are as well. So what's your location? How far are we reaching? And by the way, if you're listening to this as a recording, obviously I think you won't necessarily be able to act on the chat. So just be aware of that one for those who dive into this afterwards. Let me ask a question, first of all, if I may. And first I want to, in terms of those of you that are business owners out here, just how many of you, actually, wish that right now maybe, you're working for somebody else still. One of the biggest challenges in business today is that we dive into business and suddenly we find ourselves that, it becomes quite challenging, quite difficult. And often we can find ourselves in that place where actually, do you know what? It would be nice to go back to being employed again. And, I don't know what's worse, really, the fact that I mentioned that, or the fact that maybe some of you out there are reflecting on, actually, do you know what? It might be nice to be employed by somebody again. Let's be clear, being in business is a tough gig. It's probably one of the loneliest jobs that there is out there. My job as a business coach is to help you develop a business which works without you. Now, this may sound like it is too good to be true, and you might well believe that. Were it not for one fact. And that fact is that the methodology, the system that I'm going to share with you this afternoon has been repeated tens of thousands of times with businesses all around the world, and all of which using this, what I'll refer to as the ActionCOACH system. The system I'm going to share with you today, this afternoon, isn't based upon theory. It's actually based upon a constant process of testing and measuring, of evaluation and innovation. And a process that continues each and every day with the thousands of coaches that I obviously have as colleagues around the world, and indeed with all of the clients that I have worked with and I am working with currently. And as a result of that, I can unambiguously tell you that it works, and it works really well. But before I dive into that, let me just do a quick introduction to who I am, and you can see a swanky picture of me there on the right. Now, I've got over 20 years of experience in coaching and business in terms of multiple different areas. I started to cut my teeth as a coach within the military. I was a master coach before I set my practice up outside as a business coach some 10 years ago. Now, my experiences ranged from logistics through to actually, if you will, running, a hotel type organization, to marketing, to sales, and the marketing and sales training that I do today, logistics. There is a wide variety of areas that I've been able to focus in terms of, businesses and business. And indeed, I've worked with small, medium and large scale businesses that both span the UK and indeed globally. My strengths lie in terms of unlocking potential in terms of the business owners, in their teams, and ultimately through that combination of unlocking the potential of your business. Where is it your business can absolutely head to? Within that, I'm key, and I have a keen eye for strategic planning, of making sure we've got clarity in terms of where we're heading and what we're doing, of financial modeling and putting forecasts in play, all of which I'm going to touch on as we go through today. I clearly have a good, strong background in leadership, and that's not to impress you, but more to impress upon you. You know, my 28 years in the military, vast majority of that was spent in leadership in some of the most demanding and challenging environments that you can probably imagine. And so with that has come a very strong focus on being able to build winning teams. Now, all of that today I use to help develop my clients, their businesses, their teams, through developing what we would term as a winning mindset. So that's enough about me. Let's dive into the framework that I want to share with you today. And first of all, I want to talk about the definition of what we teach at Action Coach in terms of our methodology, and one which we've been using for 28 years now. And this methodology is interesting because we have over time looked at how to grow businesses. And what we've discovered that in reality, businesses have a set path to follow in terms of that growth. The challenge is that most business owners don't know that set path, and therefore either struggle or find it difficult, or in fact, actually their businesses don't grow. As business owners, we face that conundrum. We work for ourselves. Now, many people got into business probably the hard way, maybe, and it might be relevant to you. Maybe you lost their jobs and thought, hey, I'll go and employ myself, and it can't be that hard. My previous boss was an absolute lunatic, and I know I can do a much better job than they did. And then after a while, you begin to realize that you're now working for another complete lunatic, for yourself. And that can be quite challenging, because what happens is we end up working for the business, and it traps us in a cycle. And think about that for a moment. You're working for your business. It isn't working for you. And that's part of what we want to focus on today. And it is that cycle that we're going to talk about today in terms of building a business that does actually work for you. Excuse me. The reason you're working so hard is because your business is not working for you. That is the ultimate fact and probable cause of where you are right now, if that sits with you in terms of that challenge. Most business owners end up trapped in their businesses, effectively having a job. They lose that freedom and flexibility that actually being a business owner should give you, and what they should be enjoying as a result of owning a business in terms of having more life. They end up working longer and probably harder than any of the employees, and often for a lot less money. But here's the rub, with all of the risk. So how do you describe successful business? Have a think about that. What does a successful business look like for you? So here's how we define it at Action Coach. And it's simply this: a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. And it's the last two words which stump most people. See, what most people do is they buy a job, something which will keep them busy for the rest of their lives. And they then wonder why 5 years later, after the business has been going that they've created, isn't turning out the way that they wanted. So let's break this down a little bit. Commercial and profitable. Well, most businesses don't do that. It may pay the owner a wage, but it doesn't make a huge amount of profit. And sometimes, if any profit. Just ask yourself the question right now. Are you taking dividends? Are you still sitting on a business that's paying you a director's loan? Or are you just getting that wage? And often less than your employees. And then there is that works. Most business owners have to work really hard in their businesses because they don't actually work. It's the owners that work. And, if you start thinking of a business as an investment and not as a job, you'll start to do much better. So when we look at it finally working without you at Action Coach, the whole aim of what we do is to get the business to work so that you don't have to. And not that you don't have to work in the business, but you know what? You've got choice. And maybe you can choose where and what it is you want to do in your business. For example, if I could help you cut back on the number of hours that you work in your business each week, would that be a good thing? Yes or yes? Let's see, how much would that have an impact on you right now? I mean, do you actually know how many hours a day or a week you want to work? And that's the key there. You want to work. Have you ever thought about that? Most business owners just keep working for as long as it takes. How would you spend that additional time if you got some time back from the business with your family? I don't know, taking more holidays, new hobbies or pastimes? How many of you have got hobbies out there which actually you haven't participated in because at the end of the day, you're just too tired? And you know what? On a weekend, I'm still working in the business. Think about that for a moment, because these are valid points. You see, the biggest problem is that a hairdresser will start what type of business? Well, there's no surprise. They'll start a hair salon, and a plumber will start a plumbing contracting business, and so on. The biggest challenge is that the hairdresser is so busy cutting hair and the plumber so busy laying pipes. Who's running their business? Nobody. And in fact, actually, often they have to run the business outside of normal business hours or at the weekend. So what I'm going to teach you today is a gradual, step-by-step process to get out of working in the business and start working on your business. Okay, let me talk you through the actual framework itself. And these are the Action Coach 6 steps to building a better business, and one that generates massive results. Each of these steps is simple but powerful when they're applied. Within our organization at Action Coach, what we have done is compartmentalized. Try saying that. Compartmentalize these steps into a pathway to building your business, which, as I mentioned in the introduction, we have tested and measured through over 750,000 businesses across 80 countries over the past 28 years. So you could say we know it works, and you could say we know that through iteration that it works really well. So the first of these steps is mastery, and mastery of your business. And in other words, what we talk about here in terms of mastery is effectively eliminating chaos. The outcome is that your business becomes stable. And there are 4 key areas and elements of mastery. We have destination mastery, financial mastery, delivery mastery, and time mastery, or as I sometimes refer to time mastery as actual self-mastery. You're no longer concerned with making payroll at the end of the month or paying the bills. This is where we create a commercial enterprise. So remember that definition I talked about at the beginning. This is the commercial enterprise where we work on effectively the foundation. The second step is about cash flow. And by finding a niche or multiple niches for your product or services. Most businesses are not making enough money to really grow at a rapid rate. More money coming in means, funny enough, faster growth. You're now able to predict your cash flow by knowing your marketing, who your customers are, and how to profitably deliver your products and services. Just think about that for a moment. You can effectively turn your marketing on and off as you need it and know that it will work and predict the responses. Here's where your business begins to consistently generate cash for you. Now, wouldn't that be quite interesting? This is now a commercial, profitable enterprise. The third area is leverage. This is when we can start leveraging yourself out of the business and creating more time for yourself through developing systems. We define this as creating ever more with ever less. If we build effective systems, it buys back your time. And there are 4 areas that we use leverage in. So we'll focus on people and education. We'll look at systems and technology, delivery and distribution, and testing and measuring. And I'll talk more about those in a bit of detail later on. Now we have a commercial, profitable enterprise that works. The fourth step is team. Your team produces structure for growth. You recruit and train the very best people and ensure they fully align to your vision, your mission, the culture and goals, and both personally and in business. You now have the ability to take time off and trust that your team is managing your business. And actually at this stage, more often than not with the clients that I'm working with, we're looking actually at bringing a general manager into the business. Now you have a commercial, profitable enterprise that works, and here's the bit, without you. Now things start to get really exciting because the fifth step is synergy. And this is when everything seems to be clicking. It's kind of, if you want to put it this way, it's a really well-oiled machine. And the output is generally greater than the inputs. You can begin strategizing on the next step on your entrepreneurial ladder. You know, what's your next project, your next challenge? You know, with a business being a well-oiled machine, it means that you're going to have passive income that can now be generated from the business. Or you can choose to sell the business at significant multiple more than the business is generating. You could indeed franchise the business. And I know I talk to a lot of people about franchising or indeed licensing it. And then this leads us to that final step. And this is one of results where effectively you become the investor. Once a business has got to this point, it's time for you to start looking at other businesses. Now is the time to buy, build and sell other companies, creating equity as well as cash flow. You're now reaping the rewards of business and investing in other businesses or taking time for your own personal growth. Of course, you need to get the first steps done and you need to get your business finished first. So these are the 6 steps to creating massive results in your business. And remember that to achieve massive results in your business, one of the things I want you to think about all the way through today is that you will need to take massive action. I'm going to share with you a lot of ideas and open up your mind to a lot of opportunity. And you know, if you decide that at the end of this, that's all it's going to be, then you'll have challenge with regards to what that looks like going forward. So let's take a look at each of these steps in just a little bit more detail. Okay, so the first bit is mastery. Now, most businesses, but most business owners will admit that their business is in some form of chaos to one extent or another. Real indicators for me on this one is generally where there is a lot of overwhelm in the business. There are not enough hours in the day. I am the default setting for everything. All of those are the indications that, there is an element of chaos there. They're not in control. They're in the business every day. They're trying to catch up for sure, trying to put out fires or spin the plates or just stay afloat. And the challenge is that's not going to get any easier. Just look at the business environment at the moment. But how many of you have found that more often than not, your business, what it's actually doing is running you, and more often than not, probably running you into the ground, working too much, doing too many hours, but with no signs of things ever letting up. And this is where, something's got to change. Does this sound at all familiar? So mastery is effectively the commercial enterprise part of our definition of business. This is where we take your business from chaos to control. This is where we, put the plug in the sink, if you will. There's no point in turning on a marketing map, or indeed when we look at niche, if you haven't got mastery in the 4 parts of mastery in place. So let's explore those now. So the first area is destination mastery. Do we need to know where we're going in order to get there? Yes or yes? This is kind of a dumb question, but it's absolutely what we need to do. But do we really know where we're going? both personally and business wise? How many of you have actually looked at your vision, maybe gone back to when you started the business and decided, actually, I'm going to get into business because this is how my life is going to look in, 5 years from now, only today to find yourself trapped in a business that there seems to be no end state. There's no vision to it. In Destination Mastery, we begin with the end in mind. Do we have clear goals? If I asked the average business owner to show me their written business and personal goals, or where their business is going, or their vision and mission, maybe, to explain or show me written down what their business looks like when it's finished, or their 90-day plan. What about actually their budget and cash flow targets for the year? Or maybe even, what are they doing to measuring success? I mean, what does success actually look like for them in the business? What do you think the response is? It's usually silence. And sadly, because most people don't have a destination of any type written down, no clarity in terms of where they're going. In reality, the goal for a lot of business owners, sadly, is that, at the end of the month, can I just pay the bills this month? And just think, if your only goal is to pay the bills, then what are you going to achieve each month? You're likely just to be able to pay the bills. One of the things that we've got to do here is get really focused on where you're going, because if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to inspire your team? And whether that's your internal team or that support team that you have outside. Because if you don't know where you're going, how are they going to know? Does everyone in the business share your vision, understand what you want to do, where you want to get to? So second is financial mastery. Now, financial mastery, this isn't just about your P&L and your balance sheet. For those related, to history, your P&L and your balance sheet are just generally about the history that's going on in the business right now. Financial mastery is about budgeting, forecasting, and reporting. Here, we're talking about the leading financial indicators in your business, the things that create the results, not the things that are your results. Think about lead generation, conversion rate, revenue per hour, client retention, resource utilization, etc. There's a wide variety of measurements that we're probably not looking at. Here's an interesting question for you. On average, what percentage of business owners get a profit and loss statement at the end of each month and know how to make decisions about the next month? Any ideas? Sadly, it's only about 7%. And here's an even more vital number to know. Does anyone know what time of day their business actually breaks even? So as a business owner, it's typically about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Up until that point, all you've been doing is paying your way and paying expenses and wages. Once we know this, how much money has to come into the business before we start making a profit, and ultimately aim with the business owners to get to this point, we can then start to focus in on, maximum utilization within the business. In other words, utilizing the assets of the business to generate maximum profit. Give you an example of this. Just think about the last time you went to get your haircut. Were all of the seats in the salon being used or not? If not, then they're not running at maximum utilization, and they need to change the way that they're running the business. So what do you need to do to work this out? You need to know your numbers. So we work with business owners so they fully understand all of their critical numbers. So financial mastery is not what you've done historically. It's what you need to predict in terms of making a profit for the next month. And we'll come to some of those in a little while. Financial mastery is about taking care of several things. To find profit, we've got to look for the cash gap. In a business, there's often the case where, you're having to pay out before actually you're getting paid. And whether that's stock or wages, you can still create quite a significant cash gap. And actually, that's why most businesses go broke, or actually, in some cases, what I would term as grow broke. They got loads of business coming in, but no operational cash in the business because they're still owed money. So we work with business owners to work at better strategies to getting that owed money into your business. Now, it might be working on terms and conditions. It could be working on advanced payments and a multiple of different areas. So financial mastery is knowing your numbers and how to improve those bottom line numbers. Now, here's something for you to ponder. Do you think it's more important to improve the profit or the revenue of a company? Doubling your turnover, if you're already trading at a loss, isn't going to help. So do you think a business coach looking from the outside in is going to spot things which you may not? And I can tell you from experience on multiple occasions, yes. Once we're clearly mapped out where we're heading in destination mastery, and we've next focused on financial mastery, the next one is we need to be focusing. The reason they follow that order is because we need to be making sure that the business is running at profit. This is effectively making sure that that plug is in. So all of the leads that are coming into the business are profitable. And at that point, we can then move on to the third area of mastery, which is time mastery. So what is time mastery? Well, this is all about productivity. Business owners are always busy, but they're busy doing the right things. That's the big question. If financial mastery is about profitability, then time mastery is absolutely about productivity of you and the people that you employ, whether that's PAYE or whether that's subcontracted. Most business owners spend the majority of their time addressing two particular areas of distraction and delusion. They spend their life doing what they seem is urgent and important, but often it isn't. And they just can't see it necessarily. They can't see the wood for the trees. Just take a moment to think. Do you spend the day rushing around like, a headless chicken doing loads of stuff only to get to the end of the day and realize that you haven't achieved anything that you wanted or anything meaningful in the business? Again, now I can't explain to you just how many times I come across that with the people that I work with. And that's what happens when you're distracted and in delusion. My aim as your coach is to get you to the point where you're operating in demand. So you're only doing the things which actually make a difference to your business. Ultimately, I want to get you in the zone where you are laser focused on planning and growing the business, and everything else is just noise. Now, we can't manage time. We can only manage people. And that's why I said at the beginning, this also relates to self-mastery. We must focus on the basic management techniques and leadership systems to build productivity. So this is about making long-term money. So for the most businesses, when we start working with them, what do you think we focus on? Do you think we focus on the long-term strategy straight away? Absolutely not. Because we've got short-term needs. And often, in actual fact, the very first thing that I'll have any business owner doing is to take 2 weeks to do a time analysis. And if you're interested, go ahead and have a look at a time analysis in your business right now and see what it tells you, what you can analyze from that. So the final piece here is the delivery mastery. And this is your customer experience. How much does your customer experience reflect, think about this, what you actually do? Does your process follow and deliver your promise? Do your customers know exactly what to expect from you? And is it delivered consistently and predictably? In fact, when was the last time you asked your customers if they were happy? So how many of you have been there, in a nice restaurant before because you saw a great advert or you were sent a flyer, but when you actually experienced the restaurant, the food was awful? And there's no point in doing great marketing if your product or service is delivered badly. Will your customers tell you the truth about your product or service? No. About 1 in 10 may actually say something. Now, I don't know how true statistics are in that respect, but I know from my own experience, if I get bad service, I don't always walk away and complain. It's a very British thing to do, isn't it? To just suck it up and walk out. But what I do is I'll go and tell my family and friends of my experience. And what people do nowadays is they'll jump onto TripAdvisor, Facebook, or Google. And suddenly, if you're not delivering, if you don't have delivery mastery, the experience is not going to be great. Now, the difference when you put a coach into the mix is I'm going to be a candid friend who will tell you exactly as it is. And that means I may actually do some mystery shopping to really see what happens and record what happens at the other end of the phone, or the experience of actually walking into your premises, or having your service. Before we bring new customers in, we want to make sure we can hang on to them through delivery and a consistent focus that is predictable service and represents a fair exchange of value, fair value for money. That doesn't mean cheap, by the way. That means that they're happy with that exchange of value. So with all of these stages now in play, we've achieved what we call the mastery level. So we now know that if we put a customer in, we know that they're going to get decent service. They're going to get a decent price, and we're going to make profit out of it, which in all instances is what we would term as a fair exchange of value. So would you agree that it's a pretty good place to start? Do you think there are business owners who'd be happy just to get to this point? Well, I know there are, because I've worked with them and still work with them, because actually now we're moving on from that. So that's mastery. We now have a commercial enterprise. Then we move on to niche. So niche is about predictable cash flow. It's, through effective marketing. This is where we look at bringing scalability into your business. At mastery, we're putting the plug in. In niche, we want to turn the tap on. So here's a question for you. How many pages are there currently written down, and I mean in a document, on your marketing plan? What does that number look like for you? Excuse the pun, but it's usually a fairly round number. It's 0. At best, maybe 1 or 2 pages. Why? Because they don't know how to write a marketing plan. They don't know how to do marketing. And one of the things I can tell you with some certainty on that is I can remember when, challenge hit businesses, suddenly, what's the first thing they've got cut? Marketing. And if they actually understood marketing, they would realize that that is absolutely not what you cut out of a business. So marketing isn't about just doing a few social media posts. It's about actually creating a plan. So here's a question. Do you want to put more into your marketing or less into your marketing? Those who say less are typically those who don't measure the output of their marketing in terms of revenues, as they've no way of tracking it. The more they put in, the more just disappears. There's a bit of a funny saying out there that 50% of marketing doesn't work. The sad challenge for the vast majority of businesses is they have no idea which 50% that is. Those who put more in typically recognize that for you to make more money, you have to invest more in marketing, but do so based on testing and measuring. How many sales people do we have on the session today? And as a business owner, in reality, we are all in sales at some point or another. Remember, if you believe in what you sell it well. We have to get our niche right, because when we do, we no longer need to compete on price. So, how many of you have customers tell you that they purchase on price? Well, I can tell you with some certainty that it's not true. Most people are just too nice to tell you the truth. So they go with price because it's a safer answer. In every service or survey that we've conducted, price comes in at around 10% of the reasons people buy, with service and liking the salesperson coming in much higher up the list. So at ActionCOACH, our definition of creating niche is no price competition. But what does that really mean? Ask yourself, why do businesses compete on price? Because there's nothing unique about them. There's no difference about them. If they have no uniqueness, what's the only thing that they can compete on? Price. But how simple is it for businesses to stop selling on price? Say we called a garage for some new tires on your car. What's the first question you're going to ask? how much are the tires? And if they only give you a price, that's the only information on which you can make a decision. So we have to teach people to focus not on price, but on value. And the fastest way to kill a business, incidentally, is by discounting. If you offer discounted prices, you attract discounted customers. And there's always another supplier out there prepared to sell at a discount. And we must avoid that at all costs. Our aim in creating a niche is to find the perfect set of customers and exactly what they're looking for. We need to identify their needs, wants, desires, and their pain points. If we create something of a differentiation, we no longer need to compete on price. So we just want them to focus on us because of the value that we add. We want them to come back again and again, getting that repeat custom. You think of it as a lifelong customer. So how do we achieve this? Well, firstly, we create the unique selling proposition. And there's a key point of difference in terms of how you stand out from your competition when you get your USP right. These are the core characteristics that your business has and can actually be replicated by competitors. But these are not things like great service or sexy website, as everyone believes that they have those. They are, in essence, there's the ticket into the sandbox, and they can actually be easily replicated. So when I talk about niche and a USP, I'm talking about things like specialist knowledge that's not widely available, unique products and services, access to particular markets or key players. It could even be a well-known or respected industry personality within the business that carries that level of recognition and respect. Just think of that for a moment. The second tool in our armory for not competing on price is a guarantee. And I always find this one really, really fascinating when I start engaging with businesses. The guarantee reinforces the USP. You believe so strongly in your USP that you'll put money behind it. How many of you offer a guarantee for a product or service, at the moment? And I would probably suggest not many. But if you imagine having that guarantee, marketing that guarantee, that's a massive differentiator from your marketplace right now. And, if you think about it, when you communicate that guarantee is in place, how effective could that be for prospective customers in the sales process? But making it really clear at the early stages of the sales process, unlike some instances where actually right at the very end of a sales process that we then just throw in a grenade and say, and by the way, we do a guarantee. Well, that's desperation. So let's think about this for a moment. And I want to just to get you thinking about this, I'm going to share a story about a client. So the client's a roofing business. He had a few competitors, and his aim was to sell a new roof on average for around about £4,000, which would make him a net profit of £2,000, so 50%. When we met, he was really bothered by his competitors discounting his roofs in order to win business. So typically he was selling at £3,000 instead of his normal price and knocking 25% off his sale price, but reducing his net profit by half from 2,000 to 1,000. We worked with him to understand why and discovered that he didn't, and neither did his competitors, by the way, have a clearly defined USP and certainly no guarantees. Pretty much the same as every other roofing company that was out there at the time. So we got him to survey his customers to ask them what was important to them about choosing a roofing company and what concerns they had. So it came in as waiting around for the business, for the builders to turn up. They're always late and always takes all day for them to start work. Bad language that was used around the site, and they're worried about that being used in front of their children. The mess they might make, for example, having the roof done might result in needing to get the garden done and redecorated afterwards. So after we thought about this for a while, we came up with a guarantee. When you buy a roof from us, we guarantee we'll be on time or up to 10 minutes early every day. You'll never hear our workmen swear. We will leave your property in good as or better condition than when we started. And if we fail on any of these points, not only will we refund you the money, but we'll pay for the roof to be completed by another contractor of your choice. Now just think about how strong is that guarantee from a roofing company. If you were doing it, looking for a new roof, would that persuade you to use them rather than their competition? Yes or yes? So what actually happened was they started to promote the USP and guarantee. Now wins more contracts, and on average the sales have gone up to 4,000. And moreover, he's confident in asking for that price because he knows he offers something unique. And his customers are happy to pay that extra price because they are getting a guarantee to get what they want. No mess, no offensive language, not having to hang around for the roofers to come in. He's now got a bigger, more profitable business. And that's the power of a guarantee and a very clear USP. So two of the most important words in business in terms of getting this is test and measuring. Why? Because it's important, and it's pretty much the only way you can make objective decisions. And decisions making is the start of this process. With each variable, ask yourself, would it be feasible to increase it just by 10%? If you were able to implement some of our strategies, you would then start to see the numbers stacking up. Sadly, when I see people that start in marketing, what they'll generally do is throw a whole bunch of money at the wall and see what sticks, what works. There's never a process of saying, okay, let's try this for 90 days. Let's test them, test the marketplace. Let's see what we're doing in terms of, return on investment. How well is it working? Are we paying pounds and getting more pounds back? So what I want to do is I want to share with you a very, very powerful, let's call it a secret. The CEO of ActionCOACH, this is really what made Brad a multimillionaire, 10 times over. And I want you to think of the context of having a chassis for business, and it's really, what works for you. And, I think the recognition here that, an Audi 8 or a Volkswagen Golf share the same, but are two absolutely different packages. This is kind of how this works with any business. So when I talk to business owners about growing their business, typically there are three numbers that they focus on. Steve, I need more customers. I need more revenue. And by the way, Steve, I need more profit. And what I want to do is I want to show you the formula in the next few minutes that's going to show these numbers and exactly, that they're not really the important numbers in businesses, or not in your business. And I'll explain why in just a moment. The net is actually the fact that they are a result. They are at the end of a different equation. It is that equation that I want to really focus on for you. And it's 5 areas. And these 5 areas are the most important areas. Yeah, interestingly, when I ask the average business owner, what this formula looks like, they've got no idea. They've got no clue how they're getting the customers, no real clue in terms of how we generating the revenue and the profits. Kind of like, well, that's just the outcome of the other two if we're lucky. So let me just make sure that you're really clear on this. Make sure you got your notebooks now. If you're going to write one thing down today, make it this formula I'm going to share with you now. Let's have a look at it. So, number of leads are the prospective customers that walk into your business, call you, you call them. Maybe they find you through the internet. However it's communicated with your prospective customers or leads. I suppose one way to look at it is if you're a shop, not necessarily the folks that are looking in the window, but rather, excuse me, rather those who walk into the shop. Take a quick drink of water. When we then multiply the number of leads you're getting by the conversion rate, that's the percentage of those that could have bought from you against those who actually buy from you. So, 10 people called your business and only 2 of them purchased, then that's a conversion rate of 2 out of 10, which is 20%. But here's the thing, and I want you to think about this as we go through this. If you don't know these numbers now, how are you supposed to improve them? So this is why I want you to write this down and take this away with you, because you're going to have to start measuring this stuff. So right now, how many of you actually know how many leads come into your business on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis? How many people actually called or emailed or communicated in some way with your business last week? Who knows that number? And who knows it accurately? And again, I don't mean to be harsh, but I am going to be the coach. I'm going to guess that not many of you. And that's the problem, that not many business owners know that number. So if we don't know that number, how are we supposed to improve it? Now, one of the things that we have in ActionCOACH when we start looking at generating leads is actually we've got, just in that alone, 87 different strategies that can have an impact in terms of generating more leads. The average business, how many different ways do you think they're having leads coming in at the moment? I'm pretty much guaranteed for the average business, it's not 87. So let's see some guesses with regards to, what that could typically look like. If you just started focusing on a few strategies, could that potentially open up the doorway for you in your business? Do you think you could add a couple of strategies and then start to bring more leads in? And again, the answer is yes. And then we look at the conversion rate. Now, again, we've got 85 different strategies to improve conversion rate in the business. Well, what we need to look for in these elements is, do you know your numbers in your business? Have you got a clear strategy to improve them? A classic example in conversion rate is, if you've ever gone into a shop, what does the shop assistant turn around and say to you? They're going to help you. And what do you say? No, thanks. What about if you had a different strategy, a different script for that shop assistant that enticed that person in towards the shop? That's a strategy towards improving your conversion rate. So one of the things is we're going to work with you in terms of actually improving those numbers. And to be fair, we'll go back and look at them as many times as we need to improve your numbers so that you're able to hit the goals that you're then able to set. And interestingly, remember what I said, this is where you then start to look at having a plan. As simple as it may be, you're now starting to put a plan in place. And when you can see these numbers, that plan actually then has some validity, because you then have the ability, remember I talked about earlier, predictable cash flow. You're starting to see what actually works and what doesn't work. And the net result is you're starting to see more customers coming through. Now, after we've obviously generated these customers, we then want to look in terms of the number of transactions. And this is about repeat business. How often can and does your customer come back and buy from you? Now, some customers may come once and you'll never see them again. Others may come in 10, 20 times a year. And, it is commensurate to the necessary type of business that you're in. Now, I've had this conversation with many, many people. People say and feel it's quite clever that actually, I run a funeral parlor. They're only ever going to come in once. And I can tell you with some certainty that, sadly, with the loss of, family members in our family, we've gone back and given repeat business to the same funeral parlor, not multiple times, but, 2-3 times now. And that is a life value. Added to that then is the average sale when they come back. How much do they spend each time they come back? Now, I just want to mention on this one as well, is these numbers are the average. So when we start to look at this one, we're going to look at what your average numbers are. And, I think what we're able to do then is to look in terms of how we can then start to develop that growth utilizing those average numbers. And it's a very, very effective way of doing it. Now, on the average sales side of life, where, we're looking here, we've got somewhere in the region of 68 strategies to start increasing the average sale. Once you start to calculate how much people are spending, effectively, someone's coming in and they spend £5, some will spend £500, but the average is what we're looking for, and that's what we can work on. And then we can start to apply some of those strategies to increase that average sale. Now, with this, obviously, we see an increase in revenue. And one of the things here is, again, we've got another 67 strategies to start focusing on improving your bottom line. And this isn't just necessarily about reducing costs, but it's a way of improving margins. Now, there are many ways to increase profit margins, but the most basic is to increase your prices. Even if it's just by a small percentage, right now, that would have a positive impact on cash flow. Many business owners are scared to do this, including actually when I started with my clients at the beginning of their journeys. However, think about the process, the steps we're taking here. Once we've defined a USP, we have a guarantee, we build a reputation for quality, reliability, the customers are comfortable. And by that fact, premium pricing actually means that we start to increase our prices, our revenue. So let's put a few numbers on this and see how it works. And I'm going to run through these pretty quickly to give you an illustration. So, last year we had 4,000 prospective customers, and they came in and we had a conversion rate at 25%. Well, you can see that gives us 1,000 customers. That's the result. So they came back and bought twice from us in the year and spent 100 times each. That's 1,000 customers buying twice. That's 2,000 transactions at £100 each. That gives us that revenue of 200,000. Just to make it simple, let's say that our gross profit margin was 25%. You can see there it gives us a profit of 50,000. So why do you think I've highlighted these numbers in red and customer revenue and profitability? Well, actually, the most important, absolutely not. The fact is that it's the opposite. As I mentioned, just as I was introducing the 5 ways, they are the least important numbers on the page. I hear you asking, why is that? Well, the reason is that they are an output of results of action and input that you put into the business. And that's why there's an equal sign in front of them. The ones that actually we want to work on are in blue: leads, conversion, transactions, sale value, and profit margin. And when we look at those 5 areas, we've actually got 365 strategies for improving the bottom line. So, in those 5 areas, it's 365. So yeah, it's one a day for a year. Now, how many of those, would the average business owner know? Not many. Why? Because they're cutting hair or laying pipes or building fences or fitting kitchens or fabricating equipment. This is not typically where business owners focus their time and efforts, but it's where they need to. And by where they need to, I'm talking about you. So let's take a look at how this works. And what I want to do is I want to challenge you to think about taking, 4 or 5 strategies right now. So identifying 4 or 5 strategies right now in terms of lead generation, which you then test and measure. Do you think that you would be able to increase your leads by 10% over the course of a year? Well, I can tell you from experience, you absolutely can. In fact, most businesses can probably, do a lot more than a 10% increase just by starting to measure them. So let's have a look at what these numbers stack up like when we start to look at this. So we're now getting 4,400 leads coming in. We just took some strategies and we just increased it by 10%. Pretend that we use 4 or 5 strategies out of the 85 strategies for improving conversion rate, and we increase our conversion rate to 27.5%. Well, how many of you actually know your conversion rate down to the nearest decimal point? Probably not many. The rest, when we start to focus on this, the rest of you just need to focus in terms of really starting to measure these numbers. And that's why I wanted you to write this down, because of the level of importance. And just by looking at these numbers in your business, you can start to create a substantial improvement. So now we have 1,210 customers. You can already see that what we would term as the compounding effect here. So now pretend that we use 4 or 5 strategies of the 68 for improving repeat business. And this improves to a 2.2 per year on average. Now, What are we getting to, what are we doing to get the customers to come back? How many of you have a database of all your customers you've previously done business with? Now, when you look at that, how many of you actually, if you have got a database, are contacting them, on a regular basis, let's say every 90 days? The reality is probably not many. In actual fact, when was the last time you wrote to a customer and thanked them for doing business with you? How would you feel if someone took the time to do that for you? Now, even if you're an estate agent that sells a house every 7 years, you just write to them every 90 days and let them know what you're thinking about and how you're helping them and what the market's looking like. What do you think they're going to do, and who do you think they're going to call when it comes to time for them to move on again? It's going to be you. So we then move on to the average sale. So pretend for a moment, again, 4 to 5 strategies out of 58 that we've got that you can work on, and you improve your average sale to £110. Now, I'm going to guess many of you have seen this and experienced this multiple times. Just think of the "do you want fries with that" from McDonald's. All you need in your business is, do you want fries with that? That question. Why? Because 3 out of 10 people in McDonald's say yes to that question. And you can see actually in this case, it actually increases revenue by a massive 46%. Now, pretend for a moment that you use 4 to 5 of the 67 strategies to improve your profit margin now to 27.5%. Now, that gives us now a massive profit of 80,525.50. That's 61% increase. So hands up, who would, kind of like that 61% profitability in their company? And I'm pretty certain you all would. Now, these aren't sky, figmentation, imaginary numbers. These are numbers that can be achieved with action and focus and putting the right strategies in place in the right place. This is one of those things that busy business owners rarely invest their time to focus on because they're busy working in the business. But you can see how powerful this is if you focus in these small but essential areas. And what if rather than 10% in each of these areas, you can increase by 15 or 20%? What would it look like in your business? So can you now understand how business coaching pays for itself? You see, one of the things that we do is we're one of the only companies in the world that actually guarantees results in terms of what it is that we do. So if you do the work, if you make all of the efforts through the sessions to actually engage in agreed activities that are going to grow revenue in your business, within 6 to 12 months, whatever time scale we agree in, you're going to see this return on investment. And if you don't, we'll pay you back the difference. And that hasn't yet happened in all the time that I've been doing this. It's kind of a heads you win, tails you win type of scenario. And that's how confident I am in terms of our effectiveness of the system. What about if we did this at just 10% over the next 5 years? Let's take a look at what that would look like. Now, wouldn't you agree that that is exponential growth? I think, again, if you've taken nothing from today, take this. So once we've got niche worked out, we move on to systems, or the leverage aspect of your business. Remember, our definition is that, the commercial profitable enterprise of the business is mastery and niche. Now we add that works, introducing the systems into the business. This creates the that works piece. If there are no systems in place, let's face it, you have to, and you probably already are doing all the work. And that means working a lot of hours. And you have to do all the extra work because nobody else can do it. Have you ever used the statement, no one else can do this as good as me? Or if you want a job done properly, then do it yourself. These statements means that there are no systems running in the business. You're running them yourself. So what is leverage all about? Well, let's have a look at this. Effectively, there's a very simple way of remembering this. Systems are saving yourself time, energy, and money. And let me just illustrate how systems save you time, energy, and money. And this involves, again, for you and your business, writing flow charts down for each task and job that is being done in the business. What does it look like? The very simplest system is a checklist. Now, for me, I actually kind of really, really enjoy this part of working with business owners when we start to break down what it is they're doing and how they're doing it. And once you begin to commit things to paper, they become much clearer and less confusing. And, this is all about providing clarity to everyone that's involved in the business and each process and clear understanding of what a good job actually looks like. There's also the first steps on the path to being, able to effectively delegate, for you in your business. So let's have a look. There's 9 ways of systemization. So first one, vision statement. We start with the vision statement, where the business is actually going. And this isn't about your basic goals. This is about the big picture of your business and where you want the business to go. We look at mission statements. You then create a mission statement which tells us how we're actually going to get there. So if the vision is the future outcome where we want to, or what we want to create, the mission is the road we're going to travel along to get there. Culture statements. Now, you could call these your company's core values or core beliefs. We need to write down the rules of the game in your business so that everyone that works for you knows what to expect of them, or knows what's expected of them and how they should conduct themselves. If we're going to hire great people, we need to have great systems in place, and they need to have clear rules to play by. If you're stuck by what these look like, I'll ask Sam, to send you a copy of our ActionCOACH vision, our mission, and 14 points of culture, to give you some insight. By all means, jump onto my website and have a look. We've got them up there. 4 is goals. We then need to get goals, and establish what our goals and we focus on, utilizing SMART goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, repeatable, and with a time frame. And we want to set SMART goals throughout the business, for the next 90 days, for the next year, and for the next 2, 3, 5 years, and so on. So that we're really clear on what we're aiming for. A lot of people struggle with setting goals because they don't really know where they're going. And here's the thing, if you don't have a long-term plan in place yet, I recommend that you start by, establishing your 90-day goals and then build a quarterly plan from there. This will give you a very powerful set of goals and a detailed action plan for the next 90 days. And we run a session every quarter called Growth Club. By all means, dive onto the website, take a look. And I think, every quarter, following the annual yearly quarters, we run a growth club. So I think April, July, October, January, so on. Organizational chart. So now we're going to develop the organizational chart. What does the organizational structure of the business look like when it's finished? And interestingly, if you do it when it's finished and then work back from that, you'll actually start to establish what your recruitment process needs to look like. What positions will you have and who will be doing what? Developing an organizational chart for the future is a lot easier said than done. And to be fair, probably why most people don't do it. Many people, sit down and do this, right, crikey, I've got no idea what my business looks like when it finished. Well, go back to the first point of system is visions. How many people should I have, in the business, and what does that look like? And again, that we create barriers. So as a coach, I'll challenge you to determine what it actually looks like. What are the opportunities here in terms of actually putting an organizational chart in place? And like I said, it also helps actually creating that recruitment process. From there, for each of those positions, we look at positional contracts. What is a contract for each of the position? And positional contracts define exactly what is expected of each employee. They're clearer, that they know their job, the better the performance will be, and the more profitable the business will become. Key performance indicators or objectives and key results, OKRs. We establish what are the key measurements for every position in every department. You see that every company needs to have measurements of success so they can track their own performance against agreed targets and benchmarks. And KPIs and OKRs allow us to identify areas of strength and areas to improve and provide us performance comparisons across all areas of the business. And then we've got the how-to systems. And notice that the how-to systems are not included until point 8. And this is why many business owners who try to put systems into their business often fail. This is because they haven't done the groundwork to get the system to work. What's the point of running the system if someone doesn't know what part of the system is their job? What's the point of having a system, or systems manual if the task's not allocated to a particular role or function in the organizational chart? Management systems and finally, management systems are kind of like that final piece that we focus on. We establish management systems. A lot of time that people leave their businesses, for the reason that there's no management in place. Maybe you've got your own experience on that right now. If we develop great management systems, great reporting systems, great meetings, great ways of managing people, ultimately we can bring all of these systems together to work efficiently and effectively. If you want to read a really great book on this one, in terms of the systemizations and the nine areas of systemization we just chatted about, Brad's written Instant Systems, which I thoroughly recommend as a great read. Okay, so finally we get to the team side of things, and remember that the definition of a commercial profitable enterprise, we're now at that point that can work without you. Now, it has to be that you're not just going to jump into developing teams straight away. There is groundwork to be done on this one. So if you're thinking about structuring the business so that it works without you, that means you have to have clarity in terms of it has to therefore work with other people. So what quality of team do you want to build? High quality of team, of course. High performance. That's the whole point of what I do as a high performance business coach. So in order to do that, do we need to learn how to recruit the best people? Absolutely. It's essential. But here's the problem often that is encountered by business owners. Most businesses just place an ad out and hope that the right person finds it and applies. Now, that may have worked 20 years ago, but that won't work today, and absolutely isn't working in the current environment, as I'm probably sure you're all aware. Look at elite sports teams. How long does it take for them to find and recruit the right team members? Ages. And are they looking for the players who are out of a job? No. They're looking for the best who are often already in a position. You see, the best employers often, come from other companies, and you have to go find them. But one of the things I often ask business owners here is, if you have a look at your website, would you be encouraged to come and join your team? Just think about that for a moment. How quickly do high performing teams get rid of poor performers? In a heartbeat. And this is the other challenge that we often find. A lot of businesses hang on to poor performers. And the way that I focus with business owners here, and this will sound a bit harsh, but it's hire slow and fire fast. Now, yeah, you're right, that is a little harsh in terms of advice, but retaining poor performance in a team that you've just recruited can be an anchor that holds your business back from achieving its full potential. And it absolutely will, create disquiet amongst the rest of the team. I love it when a business owner tells me, I'm really worried about paying for training my employees as they may choose to leave. To which I often reply, well, you should be more worried if you don't train them and they choose to stay. But we're also going to need skilled managers with strong leadership as well here. And here's the rub. The learning work is the hardest work for a business ownership. Now, if you think about everything that we've talked about, the learning work is the hardest work for business ownership. It's pretty easy to go do the operational work. That's where your comfort zone is, and to be fair, that's where a lot of business owners, go and retreat to when things get tough. It's safe there because they know what they're doing. But this is not where business needs them to focus. But the skills they need to learn, and that's where I guess as a coach I come in to hold you accountable to, work harder on yourself than effectively you do on your business. Think about that, working harder on yourself than you do on your business. So here's the cycle of business. And I think as a CEO, MD, business owner, executive of the business, your job is to take care of your team. You do this by giving direction, leadership, paying the bills, staying profitable, paying wages, giving encouragement, building systems, and so on and so on. I think we've chatted enough today to give you that level of insight. Your team's job is to take care of the customers with great sales skills, great service, great quality, and great consistency. The customers then support the business by coming back more often, spending more on each visit, and telling their friends about you. And the business in turn supports the owner through profits over time, and ultimately for you as the business owner actually needing to work less hours in the business. Now, in most companies, the owner tries to run all three of these things: the team, the customers, and the business. And as I've mentioned right at the beginning, run ragged, trying to spin all of these plates. If instead the owner builds great system, builds great productivity, invests in the future, does the planning and the owner's work, think about that, you do the owner's work rather than employees' work, you start to build great teams, and the great teams take care of the business. Your team's job is to take care of your customers. And here's an interesting fact for you. The quality of the owner's relationship with their team is directly proportional to the relationship between the team and the customers. If the customers are being taken care of by the team, they will take care of business by coming back, spending more, and referring more people, and so on and so on. So we have to get the cycle of business to the point where ultimately it takes care of the owner. So team building is a major part of business success. But why do it after systems? And again, this is a proven process that we have. Well, it's pointless recruiting people into a business that is ineffective. This is how the entire process works: layer upon layer, system upon infrastructure, and that provides a solid foundation for growth. Mastery is about getting the basics in place. Niche is about marketing, but we can't market until we've got basics in place and a solid foundation. Only then can we move to systems, as we need cash flow to create them. And only once we have systems in place can we build a team to operate them systems effectively. What's the point of hiring a team if the systems are not operating effectively? So then we get to synergy. And this is where you start duplication. This is where you turn the business into multiple locations, maybe franchise it or license it. Up until here, when we get up to team, we've just been buying back your time. We've created additional cash flow to hire better people and to build better systems so that you can actually work less. At synergy, all of these elements come together as a well-oiled machine, so that the output is much greater than the combined input. And then we get to where we start looking at freedom. And this is effectively where you can begin to, your personal growth and other opportunities. And it's a pretty simple formula, really. If you have a better system and better people, would you be working less? Well, yeah, of course you would. If you had better marketing and better systems and better team, you'd be making more money. Yeah, of course you would. And if you've got better mastery and the basics of business, are you having to put fewer fires out, and are you able to be more proactive? Absolutely. The first part of working with a coach is fixing the basics of business. This is the mastery level. Once we've got the foundation in place, the basics fixed, then it's time to do the fun stuff. Sometimes Fixing it may take a month or two. Sometimes it could take 6 or 12 months or even 18 months, to get the business fixed at that level. It really depends on how badly you've messed things up, I guess, and that will determine directly how long it takes to fix. Ultimately, then we go to niche, and this could take, 3, 6, 12 months again. It could even take 2 years to get the marketing activity right and the cash flow to a level that you need to grow. Then you go to systemization. And again, this could take anywhere from 3 to 12 months, depending on the size of your business and the sophistication of the systems required. And then we go to team building, another 3 to 6 months. It takes time to do this stuff properly. That's because a permanent part of your business isn't just, trying to come up with the quick fix. A lot of business owners are looking for that silver bullet, looking for the one idea that's going to revolutionize their business. But the reality of business is that, you don't double your business with one idea. One idea doesn't add 100% to your business. What you need is hundreds of ideas, each adding 1%. That's how you double your business. The small changes and the incremental marginal performance improvements along the way add to massive performance gain in the business. Just remember the 5 years of the 5 ways chart. The massive jump in profitability was created by incremental improvements over time. Richard Branson, I think we all know he's an incredible entrepreneur, and recognized globally. He once said, if I teach you how to run a business, can you go and buy another one and do it again and again? If I teach you how to build and finish a business, you can run as many of them as you want. And it all just follows one system. Ultimately, you may be running larger, more complex businesses as your capabilities improve. And essentially, it's adding zeros. The journey is the same. But it's the learning of how to build and run that business that takes time. The challenge is we don't have a broad variety of jobs that would allow us to learn all of those requisite skills to be a successful business owner. You haven't done a marketing degree. You're not an accountant. You're not necessarily a logistician. So you've had to learn these along the way. So how much of the knowledge we'll teach you will be worth in the next 5, 10, 15 years in your business life? And that's worth reflecting on. Let's take some words from another incredible business philosopher, Jim Rohn. And there are 2 quotes particularly that really resonate with me. The first is, never wish your life was easier, wish that you were better. So don't wish that the business was easier. You need to commit to becoming a better person. The business environment is becoming increasingly challenging. Global markets, increasing competition, new technologies, and soon to be, I dare say, more taxation. It's not enough to be good now. You must consistently evolve and adapt to an ever-changing marketplace. The reality of business is that, is the reason that businesses keep disappearing, and that's really sad. If as a business owner, you don't keep up with the learning, how to change, grow, and adapt, then sadly, the business may disappear. The second wise words from Jim Rohn were, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I translate this to work harder on yourself than you do on your business. You see, if you become a better person, all of a sudden, you start to build a better business. Because the things that we have, as hard set skills, that we've discussed today, they're not actually rocket science, but they are going to take focus, commitment, and the ability to accept that there is a whole learning agenda here, and that really is working harder on yourself. Now, building a business isn't hard if you know how. The challenge here is, how are you going to learn it? Are you going to read more books? Are you going to do loads of courses? The reality is that most business owners don't have time for that. But if you do have time to meet with a coach every week or every couple of weeks, the likelihood is you're going to have time to allow someone in to help you focus on your development needs, as well as helping you build your business. And that's my role as a coach. For most of us, when we start to look at that, it can be quite a scary opportunity. It can be quite a scary thought to allow someone in to coach you. But just think about all of the coaches that are, I guess, in the sporting world, and why those individuals are at the top of their game, because they had the courage to let a coach in. There's a great quote from our CEO Brad. Where you'll be in the next 5 years will depend on the books you read and the people you associate with and the actions you take. Now, are you making the right choices for you? If you want to stride forward in life and business, then it's time to make big decisions and to make big steps. But working through the 6 steps is a very clear, and hopefully you'll see a very systematic methodology. Do you know what a lot of business owners find when I first show them the 6 steps? For the first time, they finally see that there's a plan and framework on how to grow their business and how to get their business to a point where it works without them. For the first time, they actually know how to make a business work so they don't have to, unless, of course, they choose to. Now, ultimately, the goal, is where it is that you want to get to. And that's the decisions that you've got to make. So that's pretty much the conclusion for today. I'd like you to just think about what have been the top learnings for today. Write down the top 3 action points that you're going to focus on in order to build a better business. And please, reach out and share them with me. Drop me an email. I'd love to hear about what you took away from today's session, and indeed any feedback, or we would like to call it feed forward, in terms of actually how useful this presentation has been to you. I'd finally just like to say that one of the things in terms of committing to take action, then give us a shout, drop me an email, jump onto the website, book a call in if you haven't already, and I'll quite happily give you a complimentary coaching session. One of the easiest ways to determine whether or not this is right for you is to have a look at whether or not coaching is a good fit. And the only way to answer that question is to actually have a coaching session. Anyway, I hope that's been very, very useful for you today. And again, thanks for your attendance. Thanks for getting involved. And until I just have a look now and see if there's any questions that come in. I can't see any questions that have come in. With that in mind, I would like to say thanks for your time, and I look forward to catching up with you.